Alrighty, my good people, welcome back to the Blessed Beyond Measure podcast. I am your host, CL The Source. Thank you once again for tuning in. Y'all know me. I am your friendly neighborhood hope dealer over here serving that motivation, inspiration, and some of that positivity. And I'm so glad you came back for another dose. And today I got somebody special with me who I came across not too long ago, actually, maybe a couple weeks ago. And I'm really glad that we crossed paths. Something about his Instagram profile really stood out to me, and it led me to just really explore a little bit of who he was. Turns out he is a published author, and what really caught my eye about his book specifically, his book is titled What Happens When Everything Goes Down, a story of one man's spiritual journey. What really caught my eye about that book was that he really was in a space, I think, where he was almost at a crossroads, and he just one day decided that he wanted to get up and just like seek the experiences of life, seek the lessons that life was going to give him. So he just decided, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to put myself out there and see what life has to teach me. And he is here before us today. I'm sitting here with my man, Joseph Rodrigues, also known as Palooka Joe. What's up, Joe? How you doing, buddy?
Yo, what up, Chris? How's it going, bro? It's going good. Just holding my book up. Just wanted to show the peeps out there. Really thank you for your support for this interview. And then feeling good, man. The sun's shining all over, and it's shining behind you too, bro. It's like feels good. Another day. Every time I wake up, I'm just like, we got another one in.
Oh, man, I'm so glad you said that, man. That's something that actually is part of my practice in the morning, too. Even if I'm like not quite jolted just yet, you know what I'm saying? I kind of just like give myself enough time to be like, you know what? I'm awake today. Thank you. Like I get another chance to experience this, to learn, to be around the people that I love, to cherish these moments and just enjoy this life experience. So I'm really glad you said it. And thank you for being here, bro. I really appreciate
it. Thank you.
Where are you exactly, man?
Coming out of Fresno, California.
Fresno.
Yeah,
I got some folks
Cali.
I got some folks out in Fresno, man. I'm from San Francisco. I got a couple of folks out in Fresno.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Here in Fresno, it's like in the middle of California, but I grew up in LA. So I'm from Southern Cali, transplanted into Central Cali. And it's this funny thing that you get to see where you see the influence of Northern Cal and Southern Cali like meet in Fresno. Like there's a lot of Oakland A's like t-shirts running around with like San Francisco Giants and 49ers and Raiders, and also there's Dodger fools, and it's funny to see the blend that happens here in Central Valley.
I can relate, man. I mean, I actually spent time in LA myself. I lived there for 6.5 years. Friends of the podcast know that I spent some time out there. Definitely had some great experiences, and then came back to the Bay Area, man. So why don't we start there, man? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like what made you move out to Fresno, and you were born and raised in LA. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Born and raised in LA. And honestly, what led me to Fresno, it's kind of like the story before the story, because it's there's this like point where my girlfriend, she asked me, she was like, where are you going to start this book that, I have it right here to the OG original version of the manuscript.
Wow, look at that.
So I just wanted to show it off. It's 103 pages of just crazy man's writing, So I started it off, and it was just like, where is the starting point? And I'm like, it starts off with me staring at a white wall, wondering what the hell's going on in my life. I'm basically I felt like I was wasting away at a job, and I felt like that a lot in many jobs. You feel at some point you're wasting away, you look around and you just go, I got to get out of here. So I have this like unique viewpoint of life that I'm actually writing about kind of right now in my second memoir. I want to keep busy, want to keep writing. And in the second book, it's all about every job that I've ever quit or worked or gotten fired from. So it's like all these life lessons that I've learned that led me to get to a point in my life to where I was looking at the wall going like, there's got to be something more. I gotta basically get out of this position that we find ourselves in. We put ourselves in there in certain ways. Our mindsets put us there. So it's like once I broke that mindset of being stuck and I had to go, an opportunity I was waiting for, the right opportunity to come by, because I've read a lot of books and I forget a lot of the authors quoting who to quote, but there's just something about um, there's something about reading books that like adds to your repertoire of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So I was reading a lot of books at that time that were saying things like, there's a spirit inside you that is pushing you to grow and to get out of your shell. And it was a thing of just listening to my gut, and all of a sudden, the waiting for the right opportunity to come up. And a brother of mine who I've named in the book, for just like purposes of privacy, but made up a brother name of Abe, just to make, I was like, who am I writing about? And I referenced him a lot in the book. Obviously, all these things really happened, but it's an interesting way I wrote the book. I kind of left almost all the characters are like descriptionless. So like you get a feel of who is who by reading, by the voice of like me talking, kind of how I'm talking to you right now. So that's how I write. And so in the story, it starts off with me just wasting away, doing nothing. And my brother hits me up to move away. He lived in Fresno at the time. And it was just this thing of like, now or never. It was like waiting for the right opportunity. And I jumped on it. It was this thing of like, man, when can I come up? Because he was, I was living down in LA and he was living up, as far as I was concerned, in the Central Valley. And he was just like, you could come up tomorrow. You could just come up tomorrow. I was like, wow, that means I have to just quit my job. That means I have to like pack up all my shit. And that means I just have to like tell my family I'm out the door,
Mm-hmm.
And I was living with my parents at the time, with my sister. And it was this hard thing of like everyone getting older, like my mom and dad getting older, having to see that and like having to take care of them more. So I'm the youngest of this big family. I'm the youngest of 12 siblings. And it's funny being the youngest because you're like the caboose. You get to see everything from the back end. And so, my parents were getting older and my sister was taking care of them and I was trying to help. And it got to a point where it felt like I had to let that go to find who I was, to live my life. I had to let them go. And for a long time I held on to that because I was the youngest, I'm this baby. And they treat me like one, and I'm in this bubble. And it's because I'm the youngest. Like no one ever really saw me as this like authority. I was always a kid, So even when I was 32 years old, I was still treated, I'm still a kid. I'm still the baby. Like no matter how old I got, everyone was still older. So it was like this funny thing of perpetually always being the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I write that in my book, talking about just like the family life that I was living, talking about my work life, and then coming to the realization that I wanted something different, wanted something more. You could say like, people always say, oh, the grass is greener on the other side until you get there. But it was this thing of knowing that like I had to catch this ship that was sailing. It felt like the right opportunity to change my life and to start it over again, and just having my brother there. And it was like the promise of a job. And so it was like, man, I'm going to get to work right away. I'm going to have a place to stay. It's going to be lit. Fresno's going to be lit. It was just like, I had no idea what I was walking into.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Walking into the lion's den. But I think I write the book with that kind of young schoolboy, that foolish hope of like everything's just going to work out. It's like, well, how do you know? So I don't know, but I just know. So it's like this funny thing that guides me. And in the book, I refer to it as my gut, my intuition, and also my angels protecting me, because I grew up, taught a lot of religious teachings. I grew up Catholic. Around my teenage years, in my early 20s, I stopped going to any kind of mass, or actually rebelled against religion at large for a while, for many years. People would ask me, do you believe in God? And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Just I don't trust what people tell me. I don't think the people who have told me what God is know what God is. So I'm trying to figure out what God is all on my own. But some of these books have helped me. So it's like it's a thing of just like someone else's prior knowledge giving you knowledge, giving you that boost of like, this is what I believe in now. So like what I believe in is just that, there's a universal force that there's nothing I could talk about explaining it. It's definitely out of my realm of understanding, but I feel like there's something there doing everything. And so there's nothing really to be done in that way. It's like this funny thing where I spent like a whole year before I left to Fresno in my room, just like dead ass meditating. Just like I would wake up every morning and I would smoke a little weed and I would just go outside and listen to like the birds chirp and the
Mm.
dogs bark and like the neighborhood waking up. And it was this thing of being like, man, this is life. Like this is living. Like if I can't enjoy grass growing, what is there to enjoy? Like I have to teach myself to enjoy grass growing, because you don't think about it as something to enjoy, like grass growing. It's something I've cut my whole life. So it's like something in me was like reading books about higher spirituality, talking about, I mean, grass as a living entity, even rocks having feelings, and just like all this shit where I'm like, why? And I was absorbing a lot of it. And a whole year of just, there was a book that told me something like, if you could sit in your room doing absolutely nothing, staring at a wall and enjoy it, that you figured out life in this weird way. Like you could accomplish a lot with your mind if you could quiet it to that point where you're just enjoying a good sit. You're
Wow.
just staring at the wall. So I was out of work and I was stressing because I was looking for work, and my dad started stressing, and he started stressing me out, like, when are you going to find a job? And I had lost my car, and it was like this downward spiral of like losing everything. I had to sell my PlayStations, and I had a really fancy espresso machine. I fucking sold that shit cheap. I was just like, I think I paid close to $1,000 for it. And the dude on whatever I was selling it was like 250. I was like, just give it. I need it. Cause I was like losing all these things. And then eventually I lost my car, and I write about all that in the book, just like all this loss. And so there was nothing really tying me down to staying home, because I had lost everything. I've been sitting in my room just staring at the wall, meditating, waiting for the phone to ring so that, a job would call. So, I mean, eventually a job did call, and there was a period of time where I didn't work. And it was just this really shitty period of just not having a phone, like not even, not having the ability to go out to buy myself a cup of coffee, or like just sitting around being like, got nothing to do, looking for a job, and my family would be like, why don't you go out there and hustle, like pound the pavement with your feet and, hustle on the street, like for a job. And I'm like, that's just not how it works now. You could just sit in your room on your phone. And I would just send out like applications on Indeed, like all over town, just like burger joints, or just like, any janitor. I'm like, I don't know anything. It's no experience needed. And just take it. But nothing would hire me. And so I thought, now retrospectively, it was, the one, the universe, the higher being that's like nudging you this way. It's like,
Right.
no, you're
Right.
not going to stay here. You're not going to be comfortable finding some easy job. This is going to get you to that point where you're like, I can take that step and leave and believe in myself. And
Mhm.
so there was something in me that was really spiritual that was telling me like, you're going to be okay. And it's like, well, how do you know you're going to be okay? It's like, I don't know. It's just something that's going to protect. I'm going to, like Mr. Magoo, walk through the streets with my, eyes blindfolded, and the cars are not going to hit me. I'm going to get to the other side. Call it, I mean, not even like, oh, because I don't believe in like testing fate. It's just, or it isn't. So it's, for me, it's like, if it wasn't true, then it's not true. And if it is true, then it is true. It's like, so for, I think everyone individually, we get to like put that belief into what we believe in. And so that's what shapes us, our beliefs, and like our experiences, our memories, our vows to ourselves. Because there's times where I'll do something, I'm like, oh, I told myself I wasn't going to do that anymore. So it's there's a lot of these lessons that I've learned from books and from life, uh, that I put into the book. And that's just the beginning, of me getting that that feeling to leave. And then the trigger that like triggers it is the life that I was living. So a lot of experiences that I went through that I felt like I had to put into the book, because the book is essentially two sections. Each section is 10 chapters. But the way that this was written, it wasn't really written like this. It was just written one page at a time. I
Mhm.
would I would tell my girlfriend, "Do you think I could write a book?" And she was like, I don't know, you have to write one page at a time. We'll see when you could write one page. So I wrote like one page after one page, and it was just this story that was pouring out of me. And before I wrote it, I was talking about it like this. So it was like this thing of talking about leaving, talking about being on the train, talking about wondering what the hell was I doing with my life. And when I got to Fresno, I was like a man on fire. I was just like ready to take over the town. I was ready to bump into my wife. I kept telling people, I was like, I'm going to meet my wife. And my sister laughed at me. My older sister, she was like, you crazy. And I'm just like, I know, I am crazy. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Like everything was just going to happen because it was like I was speaking it into happening. And so that led me down this rabbit hole, though, of maybe false beliefs or just like disillusionment. And that's where the rock bottom comes into play, because I feel like a court jester, like playing a flute, like dancing you along. And in the book, that's what kind of comes off like as that's what I've tried to, portray, this like story of me pulling you along. And slowly, little by little, the song turns sour and the notes go flat, and you're like, what the hell's going on around here? The lights go off, and it gets scary. And that's I always pump up the second section, because I wrote the book to just get through the first section almost as quickly as possible, because the fireworks and the real show, it starts kicking off chapter 11, section 2. But it's like a thing of a buildup. It's like a drum beat. So at the beginning, it starts off all like friendly and fun, and as the chapters go on, it starts getting really intense. And I draw a lot of inspiration from everything I've ever seen or experienced, like every book I've ever read, every person I've ever met. Even when I pray at times, when I am praying, it's like a thing of like wholehearted prayer. And I thank God for everything and everyone I've ever met or will meet. And so, like, in a way, years ago, I was thanking God for this meeting today, right now, because it's like this thing of, we're not guaranteed time. And we talked about it a little bit. We're like, time is really important to me, like the aspect of giving it and having one's time and sharing time. Like right now, we're kicking it, talking on this podcast. It's so fun. And in the book, what made me know that my girlfriend was like the one, matrix status Neo, was when she said, I'll make time for you. I was like, I was like, she's making time for me. I'm like, what kind of person knows how to make time? And at this time, my brain was working on this level of like intense coding, like reading people, getting their expressions and the words that they would say, and like deciphering what they really meant. So like she was saying things that was just constantly blowing my mind. So I'm all reading about the concept of time and space and what is, reality. And here she is, she texted me, do you want to hang out? And I was like, oh, only if you have time, or something like that. And she's like, oh, I could make time. I was like, in the book, it's like this fun back and forth of like this fool's hope and then the reality that's around the fool. So it's like, who do you believe? Do you believe the fool who's telling the story, or do you believe your own eyes, which are now witnessing the story, reading it? And it's not adding. Eventually, a point gets to the point where it gets disconnected because things don't add up. And I wrote it so that it's a real slow burn of that happening. So it kind of starts off a little bit like, where's this book going? But as you get closer to the end of section 1 and the beginning of section 2, it's a wild roller coaster. It's pretty clear it's going somewhere crazy. So
such is life, though, right, brother? Such is life, and it's like life is moving so fast, whether we know it or not. We're literally spinning on this like rotating rock on an orbit that's revolving around the sun with other planets and stars in the universe. And it's pretty wild, man. And you said so much in what you just said, and I appreciate you really just like giving us a gist of what the story is. And now I kind of want to like ask a couple questions in terms of some of the particular moments that you kind of went through when you were writing the book and what inspired it, obviously. But like I want to take it back to when you were searching for a job and it just seemed like you couldn't find one. Was there moments of like feeling like less self-worth or like hopelessness at that point? Or were you
Oh
still
yeah,
believing that
yeah.
the universe was going to eventually write its course for you?
That's funny because I mean, mentioning that I was writing this new book, this second book, this memoir, this follow up. I haven't gotten to that point and even thinking about that section of like, I have to write this now, just like you mentioning all this, because there was this time where I was going to interview after interview, and it was like this hope of getting a job. It was like a carrot on a stick. It
Mhm.
really, you talk about hopelessness. There's that hope that if you just reach a little bit more, you could just grab that carrot. So you're on your adventure and you're not thinking, is this going to happen or is this not going to happen? It's like visualize the carrot, grab the carrot. You can reach this carrot, and it's just out of reach, right? So it's this thing of like, try to get the damn carrot. So like that's what I think life's about. A lot of it is like chasing, and if you put that thing on your head and you have the carrot extended, you're chasing life. And I was chasing a job. And there's this thing now, retrospectively you could look back and just kind of see, but there was this desperation in me that was like showing up to interviews, and people probably could see it and not like it, or like it was something. Every time I would give an answer, maybe it was a little bit too excited. It was just like, people were like, thank you, we'll call you. And I'm like, okay, I think it went pretty good, and you're just like, they're going to call me back. I'm going to definitely get this job. Why wouldn't they hire me? Like I have all this experience or whatever it would be. And they would just be like, we're passing on you and we're taking some other candidate. And you're just like, oh, that actually happened to me just the other day recently. I got hired by a job. I went through a goofy ass interview process, went through a terrible training regimen. And then they afterwards, it's like, they only worked me 2 days in 3 weeks. They just went, thank you, but no thanks. We're going to pass and pick the other
If
guy.
you don't mind me,
Yeah.
cutting you off here, I would like to say something, man. And from what it sounds like, you've went through this whole just trying to jump up and down, jump through hoops to get jobs and stuff like that. Like we all do. We're
Yeah.
all looking for somebody or like a job to validate us. And then maybe, and I'm pretty sure you probably come across this thought millions of times, which is why you're a writer. But maybe there's a reason why these jobs are not for you. Maybe
Yeah.
you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole
In
per
the
se.
red
You know what I'm
hole.
saying?
Yeah.
Like
How interesting. Yeah.
you've got a writer's spirit. You've got a gift that can't be just boxed in by a job. Maybe you're just
Yeah.
not that guy. And that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Dude,
you've
thank
got
you for
more
that.
to give. And I really believe that, man. Based on like the energy you're giving off right now, like, dude, I could just tell you're such a creative spirit. And I think if you were to just like maybe forget the job stuff, man, and just because you've already been through so much, just trust yourself that you're going to continue to figure it out with your work, with your writing. Put your creative energy into what it is you're meant to do, what the universe has like designed you to do, and I think you'll be just fine, man.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate that. It's like a lot of lessons learned that led me to the belief of just like, ah, this next thing, the whole thing of like wallowing in the idea of something maybe not working out for me is just like that whole thing of time. It's like it eats up time. I don't even want to say it's a waste of time, because you could invest this like commodity of time in anything you want, and it grows whatever it is you want it to
Right.
grow. It's like a really interesting thing. Our attention and our devotion even, it's like this funny thing where when the fire burns out at a particular job, there's no repairing it. I'm instantly on Indeed or whatever looking up jobs now, but it was a time in my life where jobs would just kind of jump into my lap, and it was an exciting time. Just before having to struggle, I was working one job after another, and I never had to look very far. A job would just come calling, and it would be like, oh man, it's so easy to get a job. All you got to do is reach out, say, hey, I'm a really good worker, look at me, let's interview. And people would be like, okay. It's like happened before. So I would show up to these interviews when I really needed a job, and I'm like, simple thing, you just go in there, you shake their hand, you say you want to work hard, and they hire you. But it wasn't working out. So there was a lot of bus rides home because I lost my car. I was a Lyft driver in LA. So I was going like 400 miles a night round trip, just like taking people everywhere. And so I was used to just like being on the road, working and making a buck. And it was kind of a struggle, and it was fun. And it was one of my favorite jobs because there was no boss there to like yell at me or tell me what to do. But I got hit and my bumper got ripped off, and the whole thing like froze my account. So I wasn't able to work. So then I had to like scramble to look for a job that I could even attempt to make that much money in. Because the thing about Lyft is you could work 12, 14 hours. No one's going to stop you. So it was like this thing of being like, for me, it was just make $100 a day. If I can make $100 a day, I cover my bills. I live a simple life. I'm like $100 a day. So I'm just like, fuck, what job can I work that's going to pay me $100 a day? Just like a quick job we could get. It's hard. So I was looking at all these different jobs and going to different interviews. And the worst part was I was getting promised callbacks. So I kept like waiting for those callbacks, and it just never materialized. This funny thing that the universe keeping you from where you need to be. So there was this point in my Lyft career where I literally prayed to God, and like I said, heartfeltly, and I just said, help me take care of my family, like help me be where I'm supposed to be, like kind of just like giving that will to a higher power and understanding that whatever may come is I'm basically asking for it, That same day, like 10 minutes later, that's when the bumper thing happened, and my account got frozen. And it was this thing of like, okay, God, I get it, funny, like it's like this thing of like, this is what you asked for. You asked for God to like in this way, this like entity, this higher spirit to like guide your path. Well, then your bumper got ripped off. You're not supposed to be a Lyft driver in LA. So then my Lyft thing got frozen. I lost my car. So it was like this thing of like, man, I'm losing everything. I sold all my games. I was basically just, all I did was have books. I had my books. So it was like this thing of, it was one book after another, but a couple of books that have helped me is Letting Go by David R. Hawkins. And he just talks about a lot of struggle, a lot of people hold on to, and it's really the holding on to that makes the struggle. So it's like, if you just let go, I mean, it's as simple as that. But the book doesn't really tell you how to let go. It just gives you, a ton of examples of why letting go would be a good idea. And it's kind of up to you to put those pieces together. Like, I want to let go of whatever it is that's bothering me. And a lot of that was like being the youngest, being
so sorry if I interject here. I'm curious.
Oh, no,
how do you let go? How did you find your process of letting go? Like, what did you do to kind of practice that?
I mean, honestly, when I think about it, there's this, it's like a game where it's like, change the thought. Like, there's something about thinking a negative thought that's natural in like our human minds. We just, something will come up and you're like, it's terrible. And so there's something where I made a game of like, say the exact opposite that's positive as quickly as, replace the negative with the positive as quickly as you can. And like, believe in the positive wholeheartedly, because if you say something like, that'll never work, it like becomes true. It's like, that will never work because you just said it and you believe that it won't work. It's probably not a good idea, something like that. So for me, it's like to believe something, just in something, to believe in myself is an easy thing, because I don't know, it's something. When I was really young, I would look in the mirror and I'm like, nobody likes you. I'm like, yeah, but I like you. I'm like, yeah, I like you too. And I'd have this laugh in the mirror. And it's like, if you could just enjoy your own company, eventually you'll get to this point where you could like grow. And so for me, it's like, I had to sit in a room for like a whole year and just enjoy my own company and grow. And that year is partly the year, the 6 months that I was out of work. And then I did get work. Like I said, I was working at Outback Steakhouse, and it was like 6 months of working there. So the year of meditation was really the 6 months of not working, and then the 6 months of working, before I had enough of the working. And I wanted to have something more. It was just this opportunity of like growth that was beyond my wildest dreams. Like, just quit your job, just be dropped off in the middle of, what I considered nowhere, because I don't know anything about Fresno. Now I know Fresno, but it was just like, man, I'm just gonna go and know nobody other than my brother. And it
Hey
was
Joe,
just this.
Joe, I'm
Yeah.
curious. How did you discover meditation, man? Like, did you just
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
discover that on your own, or did you like, when you were by yourself, you just were like, I'm gonna just meditate, or who put
There's
you on?
a
What
funny
happened?
story about that, because I mean, it's really the story before the story, and it's part of my journey. And man, the meditation was a real interesting, slow burn, years of implementing one tiny step at a time. I mean, when I first heard of meditation, and I don't know, someone told me about it. I really don't remember the first time. I just thought it was lame. I was like, no way. No, you can't shut your brain off, or it's just, I would try, and in my mind, it would be like, okay, quiet your mind. And I'd be like, oh, your mind's not quiet. And it's this funny thing of like talking to yourself, where for me, I'm just like, no, come on, we could do this. But I couldn't focus when I was younger until, I mean, I was in my mid 20s. I was reading books of higher spiritual awareness, and a lot of them were just kind of casually dropping, like, hey, meditation could help you, this and that, different forms of prayer is kind of like a meditation. And just what meditation means to everyone is a little different. So, for me personally, it just meant like achieving like different points of awareness of my mind, of being able to pinpoint, I don't know, let's say like when I first started, it was this interesting thing of wanting to quiet my mind. So I would like focus on my breath. So I would breathe and just really focus on my breath. And I've read all kinds of different forms of meditation. And one of them was just like count to count down from the number 88. It's like this weird random thing. I probably found it on the internet somewhere. And so it was this guided meditation where it was like, imagine the number 88 and count down slowly in giant letters, just like C88, C87, C86, slowly count down all the way to zero. And I kind of felt like it started in the sky as fireworks and slowly sank down to like the bottom of the ocean, in this mind of like getting to zero. It was like intense, because once you get to zero, you count back up to, I don't know, something like 32. I'm really misquoting this meditation practice, but this is what I started doing. I just started counting up to, maybe 32, 29. And once I got to that number, counting back down to zero. And then being at that second zero, it was like space landing, just like my mind was off, and I was allowed to live this space of not thinking and being okay with it. It was like it led me to a point in thought where I wasn't thinking. And so there's an existence that's beyond the level of just like our normal everyday thoughts. And so I think quiet the
Hmm.
mind is one of the most intense practices. Like I said, it took years. And one of the books that I was reading just talked about focusing on a point in space. Any point, you pick a point and you look at it, and that's all you focus on, and you just laser beam your focus. And there's this way of reaching a level of meditation through that focus and attention that you could also reach in the exact opposite way by focusing on everything and not having any point of focus. So it was this practice of sitting in my room. Like I said, I wasn't working. I would wake up in the morning. Like I said, I'd smoke weed, but that didn't last like the whole. So I only was probably at the beginning, where I had some dough, where I was still like, oh, okay, everything's going to be okay. I'm going to keep my car because I'm going to find a job. But when everything slowly fell apart, it was just like, okay, I think I could just leave and know that I'm okay leaving. But the meditation really took me to a point where I could exist and not think and still function. It was like this weird kind of feeling of trying to understand what is consciousness and what are we. And I think a lot has to do with like quieting the mind. So the whole meditation process, it's a long process that I would want to write down. Actually, it's something that is it needs a book. Like, I'm starting to realize that I'm a writer because I'm talking in book length. My girlfriend's like, calm down, stop talking. You're talking in book length. Because there's times where I just want to explain
Yeah.
something, and it's going to take so much.
Well,
But
that's what I feel like with you, Joe. I feel like that's one of the reasons why I said maybe a job is just not for you, man. Maybe you need to honestly just like
yeah,
you need to be your own entrepreneur. Like the energy that you
thank
have,
you.
if you can just literally like you did with your book and just keep
Oh
writing,
yeah,
man. Keep writing, keep being
thank you.
creative because that's what I feel like your energy is, man. Like you have such a kind spirit, it feels like it's also just a creative spirit and it's expanded, like your mind is so expanded. And I think that those thoughts, if you're able to share that with so many people, dude, maybe even start your own podcast, to be quite honest with you, man. I mean, I think we mentioned off air that you did some stuff, but you kind of just fell off it for a little bit. But dude,
Yeah.
maybe it's something that you want to re-explore again because you have a lot to give, man. And I think that's
Oh,
once people discover that, then we make it our mission and our purpose to give our gift. Lately, I've been really um understanding what dharma is. Are you aware of what dharma is?
that, I mean, sounds very familiar. I
So
mean, as far as, yeah.
dharma, you would think that dharma is the opposite of karma, but it's not. It's the
Yeah.
Ayurvedic like term of basically it's when you find your gift, which is like we
Oh,
what something that we all have to give to this world before we inevitably perish. And then when you tie that with your passion and you tie that with your purpose. So for
yeah.
you, I'm just speaking for you based on
Oh
what
man, thank you. Yeah.
based on the few minutes that we've been here together and just me kind of like listening to you and just feeling your energy. You have a super kind heart. I can just feel that about you, man. Like you're just like I feel like you wouldn't hurt a fly, man. You're just like a super nice guy. And then
Well, thank you.
on top of that, like you have a just a gift of communication, whether that be through speaking or writing, and you have a passion for it. And that could very much be your purpose. And if you tied that all together, that will be your dharma. And you know the universe rewards. You know what I mean? Like you put work
Following
out, the
that,
universe
yeah.
rewards. So I would say, if in my honest opinion, it's fine. Like listen to what the universe is telling you by not giving you these jobs, by not
Oh
keeping you at these
yeah,
jobs for a
I
while.
feel you
Maybe
on
it's for
that,
a
man.
reason.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. What happened actually for this book, I mean, all these things that happen, I'm like, I could write a book about it. I could write a book about writing a book. Because there was this point where I was working, and I had a retail job at a thrift store. I worked at the Salvation Army for about a year and a half, here living in Fresno. And during that time, it was like this thing of wanting to write a book. I started talking to my girlfriend about it, and it was this thing of like coming home from work, having to like get into the mindset of writing, thinking all day what I would write about, and then having like this explosion of like typing one page. And it's like this thing of like dictating the pages and the story, and it like flowed out of me, and I was able to work and write. And there was this time where I felt like the story was it gets really intense. So I know you said I'm this nice guy, and I am a nice guy. I love being nice. It's this funny thing of like having to embrace the good side. Like, everyone can be mean and nasty and have their bad days. And it's this funny thing of just like choosing and being what you choose. So like for me, it's really important to choose to be a good guy
Mm-hmm.
and to reject these like bad thoughts of things. But in the book, I it's pretty nasty. There's a very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I think I even reference those characters in the book, because I go from this real carefree, easy, laid back kind of guy to just a tyrant, just some big asshole, a big jerk. And it's this thing where um, I try to buy enough good faith in the first 15 chapters, the first 15 chapters of my book, because I'm starting to go crazy around chapter 15. No spoilers. I think the book is there's a certain amount of, there's no way I could spoil the book because it's like you have to read it. It's really intense. It's built to be, you know, one chapter after another. The if you get in the middle of the book, it's going to be like, what's going on, you know? So it's definitely one
What
of
year
those
did the
slow
book
burn.
come out?
I just we just published it this December,
Oh wow,
so
recently.
2021. Yeah, yeah, it's only been out for maybe 2 3 months, going on 3 months now.
How did you I'm curious about the process of getting a book published, man. How did you even put that all together?
Yeah, there's this daunting task of like self-publishing because there's a couple different ways you can go and publish a book, and self-publishing is just an avenue that you can go. You kind of have to put up the cash more, and then it could be this thing where nobody buys your book. It's just this like funny thing where my girlfriend would ask me, you know, what are you putting this book together for? Like, why are you doing
Mm,
this?
good
And the
question.
question, yeah, you know, and I had to sit there. I thought about it the first time she asked me, and I was like, to help somebody I've never met sometime down the line, at some point in the future, they're going to pick up this book and not feel so lonely, not feel abandoned because someone else went through hell, and you know what they're going through now is relatable. And to know that there's this kind of like rock bottom, you know, that you can then come out from. It's not the end when you hit rock bottom. It's this path that we all, you know, we all take different paths. So for me, I just, you know, it was this thing of getting to this point in my life where I wanted something more, and I thought leaving would be great, you know, but it's this funny it's like a tightrope act where I'm a normal guy, but I'll be honest with you, in the book, I'm a different person in this book. My girlfriend kind of, we talk about it every now and then where, you know, I'm not the same guy as I was in this book. So I'm writing this character, I'm writing this book, and it's like this character almost like, um, this character almost um, like isn't me anymore. It like becomes someone else.
Because you
There's
grow.
this,
You've
yeah,
grown from
there's
your
this growth.
experiences.
Oh yeah, I mean, so me being the writer, I had to like write about me in this sense of growing, and it's a lot of I don't know, it's like a lot of my emotions poured out onto the page, and I try to make it so that you understand that, you know, I am losing it, and there's this nastiness that comes up in, you know, a lot of people call it like the shadow of um, the shadow of the self, you know, or just like the dark night, just like this time where your soul is on fire and you're questioning reality, and not everyone gets to that point. So it's like this thing of just wanting to um, like portray correctly the slow buildup of events that lead me to losing my mind. Because I think I tell my girlfriend, man, it could have went a different way. But the whole time in the book, I'm telling myself things like, it had to happen this way. Like if it didn't happen this way, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't have a book, you know, I wouldn't, the things that I go through, I went through, it happened. So being able to articulate that in a form that people can then consume, it was very daunting. So it was one day at a time, it was one page at a time. Like as far as like, man, how did you self-publish? I just poured out my story onto the page. And then so really I think what you're after is like the editing process, because dang dude, that was crazy. That's like a whole year of like rewriting the book, because
Wow.
I'm a new author. I didn't grow up writing. Like I didn't grow up going to school for writing, or I wasn't really interested in writing, but I've always been interested in reading. So I've read a lot of books, and I told my girlfriend one day, I'm like, I've read so many books. I bet you I could write a book. And she was like, you should try. And that's where that ball got rolling. And it's like this thing of like rewriting. So I took this manuscript, and line by line I copied it into my laptop. So I digitized uh, the manuscript, and it took like 3 or 4 months almost of like taking a page at a time, writing it. And the worst part, about halfway through, I had a little meltdown because it was like, this is not finished. Like, this book is terrible. It's going to take so much work to get my story to the point where it's actually at the level of like a book. Because just telling your story, just like this manuscript, if I publish this manuscript, I don't know if anyone would be able to actually read it. It's just,
Right.
it's poorly written. It's, a lot of it is like notes to myself and just memories and just kind of pouring out of me. And it's like, eventually when the editing process happened, I rewrote the book the first time, and it was like, whew, that took forever. So then I had to rewrite it a second time. I was like, okay, cool, it'll be a little faster. So every time I rewrote the book, it was a little faster, but it would still take a long time. So, I mean, the first time took like 3 months, second time took like 2 months, the third time was like 1 month, and then 2 weeks, and then 1 week, and then a couple days. It was just like faster and faster. I kept reading through, fixing anything that was wrong, and just moving on. And so, in a way, I edited my own book because it got to the point where I left my job. I had to leave my thrift store job at the Salvation Army because my attention to finish the small details of writing, they were starting to consume like every minute of my day. Like, I would write for maybe 6 or 7 hours a day, just working on the rewrite, just like combing through, fixing it, combing through, fixing it.
Just
And
refining it, right? Just like
yeah,
tightening it up.
I
Yeah.
mean, we ended up getting it to this point where it was like the fifth rewrite, and I was like, it's done, it's finished, and I kept saying that every rewrite.
Dude,
So it got
that's
to this
that's
point.
you're a true artist, man. That's what a creative person does. Like, they're so,
Yeah.
and I feel that same way myself. Not to cut you off, sorry, man, but I just
Oh
wanted to say
no.
that,
Yeah.
like, that is absolutely natural when you're in this creative state, because you want it to be, it's like your baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, you
Yeah.
want it to be received as best as possible. So you're gonna put all this time and attention into it and just really try to make it the best that it can be so that it can have that profound impact for someone. And I love how your girlfriend asked you that question. And I'm curious, with that question of like, where she asked you, what are you writing this book for? Was that prior to like you writing it, or like deciding to write it, or during the process of you
I
writing it?
I
When
think
was
it
that?
was like 30 pages into, probably 3 months in, 30 pages into my manuscript. It was like I was starting to probably
So
dedicate
you
more and
started
more
already.
time to it. Yeah, already like into the beginnings of it, because I think there's this funny thing about like the first 5 chapters that I wrote. They're almost separate from the last 15. It's almost like a really long introduction where the first 5 chapters are just almost introducing the players, kind of giving
Yeah.
my backstory, giving my adventure. And then in the fifth chapter is where like the adventure begins. So it's like this interesting thing where I think before I got to that fifth chapter, it was like, what are you writing this for? Because there was a lot of maybe like family memories, memories of back home, this whole like building up of like experiences that led me to leaving. And it was like, what are you even going to talk about? Like, what is this book going to even encompass?
Yeah. What's the intention behind it, right? What's,
Yeah, like,
yeah.
what, you went through hell, and we had this crazy relationship, and how much of it, is true, and what's going on. Like, everything in the book, I try to make as true as I possibly could, with respect to my girlfriend, and respect to, not only her family, but my family, and people that I don't know who are going to grab this book someday. And I'm kind of the type of person who maybe we'll tone it down. So like, the book had all these, maybe let's say juicy details, but one by one I kind of plucked them out. So I'm like, look, it's not like the less juicy, it's not going to be good. It's almost like I took out all these things, and all of a sudden the book started flying. And it was like, I like that people are quickly getting through. Like, I'm reading it and getting through the first 5 chapters. I'm hoping that people will do the same. Like, I kind of want you to burn through those first five, and then it gets harder to read, I think,
So
after
I'm
the
curious,
first five.
what's some of the feedback you've gotten? I didn't get a chance to look on your Amazon link if there was any
Oh yeah,
comments and
there's
stuff like
one.
that.
Yeah, there's one review. It's this funny thing of like, Amazon. There's a certain bar that you have to reach of like being an Amazon Prime member. Like, I don't know, like Amazon is a funny thing where they'll remove comments if it doesn't meet the mustard of like their requirements of. So we do have one like verified review, and it's really nice. I mean, the lady who bought the book bought it through Instagram, uh, or like just like the contact of like me posting. She is a local soap vendor. She makes her own soap, and she's cool. Shout out to the soap lady. And she must have ordered it on Amazon because she randomly sent me like a text or like a message with the picture of the book, being like, "We got our copy," her and her husband. And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And apparently, she like burned through the book and read it in like 2 days. She
Wow.
was like, "Yeah," she was like, the beginning was a little like, where are you going with this story? Because it doesn't, I mean, I tell you that I'm going on this adventure, and maybe I keep hyping it a little too much, those first 5 chapters, but like the last 15 is the adventure that I'm hyping. So it's like, I told her, I'm like, I didn't know people were going to consume the book in 2 days. Maybe she saw a pattern I didn't recognize, as it took me, so long to write it. And then even when I read it, it took me about maybe 3 days.
So I'm curious now, like what have you learned that you're gonna apply into this second book that you're writing, man?
Yeah, man, that's what's interesting. I think so I ended up rewriting the book over and over, like so many times, actually 10 times. Or it got to
Wow.
the point where, yeah, it was like a whole year of rewriting it, because I kept feeling every time I touched it, I made it better. So it was like this thing of getting to the point where, I mean, now I read my book and I'm just like, oh, I could have made it better. But it got to the point where it was like, man, if we don't publish this today, we are never going to publish this. Like, it was like this thing of being like, after the last intense rewrite, it was just, it needed to go. It was just like, I was tired of reading it. I was tired of writing it. I was like, it's finished. And now when I read it and write it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I could fix this and this and I could fix that. But I'm like, you know what? I'm pouring that energy into just the next book. I mean, if I do someday eventually kind of fix all the typos of the first one, I think what I'm doing is I'm learning that I can be productive and keep this like consistency of writing if I give myself like a quota for the day. And so I think what I learned the most is just how to be consistent, like how to really show up, how to like, my writing is getting better every time I touch my keyboard. And it's like this funny thing of just being who I am. I'm just like really embracing that I talk a certain way, that my girlfriend calls it like a storyteller. You're like a natural born storyteller. So I kind of embraced this flow of words and energy. And I think now I just trust it more.
Now here's
When
here's a
before,
question I want to ask you.
yeah.
Do you enjoy writing? Is it still is
Oh,
it something that you love to do?
oh yeah. I think it's a calling, So for me,
Nice.
I could sit down and type. I like the other day I was like, I'm going to type 1,000 words in one book, and then I typed 1,000 words in the other book, and then I
Wow.
feel like I accomplished something for the day. And then if time permits, I'll add a few hundred words of here and there, depending on what. So I'm working on 2 books right now. One's my second memoir, and the other one I've been teasing as a secret, like my third book. But it's going to be my first novel, and that's a little bit further behind. It's like a thing of, I heard somewhere on YouTube one of these videos that I watch where it's like, if you want to be like happy as a writer, never finish writing. Like, never be complete. Always have something you're working on that's open ended. Always start a side project and just type a little bit in it when you get bored of typing in your other one. So I started my second memoir, and I wrote a couple pages, a couple chapters. It started really forming. And then when I would get bored, because I would just get burned out of writing. I'm like, what am I doing writing about all the jobs I've ever worked? Why my first book is like this funny thing of like, it's an interesting story because I went crazy and I come back from it, and this whole thing of meeting my girlfriend, it's like this legacy I'm leaving. So my second book, it's just going to be all about the different jobs I've worked. And I'm like, man, if I what the way I want to leave that one is just like every experience led me to where I eventually got to the point where I wrote my first book. So I feel like all those things, maybe even at first when I didn't think they were important, maybe they are important. Like maybe I could just tie it together where I'm writing about when I'm 17, 18, getting my first job. I'm kind of writing about me when I'm around that age, things happening to me and my thoughts and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm trusting more my voice. Like I'm okay if no one reads my second book and no one thinks it's good, no one likes it. I think it will be like written better than my first one because I've worked so hard on that first one. I spent a whole year of writing. Now I'm like 3 months into the second memoir. It's around 40,000 words. So it's probably, if I'm going to be happy with it, I'll add close as I can to 40,000 more. So I might, it's going to be a little bit shorter than the book I have now. And I'm okay with that. It was like this weird thing of having to have a book that was like 350 pages or something. It was like this like dream of like writing a 450 page, like my book has to be long. But then when you self-publish, you start realizing that just adds to the cost of manufacturing.
Well, it sounds to me like the beauty of writing or writing in general or anything is you could always write another book later on. Like you got 2 books cooking right now, man, which is pretty cool, man. I would say that like even if you don't do 350 pages this time around, dude, I feel like just with anything in life, the more you do something, you inevitably get better. So what you're going to do is take these lessons from the first book to the second book to the third book to fast forward to your 50th book, maybe your 100th book, and then you don't know what the future has in store for you, but you have the control within your hands, right? Like you have this gift and it seems to me like it just pours out when you get out there. So, but I also, can I be honest when I say this? I feel like you have a hint of perfectionism, which can be good, but it can also be bad. You know what I'm saying? Because it'll just be like, damn, like you'll just drive yourself up the walls, man. If you just like are overthinking it, sometimes you just got to let that thing do what it does and then just take the lesson and keep moving forward. But I mean, I'm excited. I'm going to pick up a copy of your book and take a read of what you got going on. And I just want to see your natural progression, because honestly, the reason why I asked, are you loving it, is because if you love something, this is going to be something you're going to do the rest of your life. And if that's the case, you're going to have more projects. You're going to have more work down the line. We don't know what tomorrow holds. You and I have both, clearly talked about time being a gift. So, just I guess, make the most out of the present moment, and the present moment dictates your future moments, man. So,
I mean, I really appreciate the positive vibes on that, because maybe in December, we had just launched the book. I just started writing the second book, and I was just like, like, I don't know, when you pass like a video game that you played for 100 hours and and it's like, okay, you want to play the sequel? You're just like,
you want to take a break for a bit, enjoy it.
I mean, it was like, I think I took like a week off or 2 weeks off from, like, I wasn't writing at all. I told my girl, like, we just published, the book had just launched. I think it was like this thing of fulfilling pre-orders, and early mid-December, late December.
What'd you do during that time when you took that time off?
Oh,
were you enjoying the grass growing?
It was like this thing of starting to look for work again, and feeling those same feelings of like, oh man, when you really need a job, the jobs just scatter. They just like, they don't call you back. And so I think around December was when the book was like officially finished. We published around December 18th, or on December 18th, and it was a thing of like, okay, I'll start looking for a job after the holidays clear out. And then, nothing came back. And it was like, okay, after New Year's clears out. And I was like, okay, I don't know, maybe they're not hiring for January. I was just like, man, I was kept looking for work. But the whole time I just kept writing. There's this routine that me and my girl have where I'll wake up and I'll try to write 1,000 words as quick as I can. Like, we'll chill for a little bit. She's an artist. So lucky for me, being a writer, because there could be this loneliness to writing. Like, I have to be alone when I write, which means, she's alone. We live together. And so there's this great sense of like having to ignore each other to get our work done. And so there's times where I have to focus and write and just knock it out, so then we could reconnect. So like even now she's like, drawing, or she's doing art. And it's like this cool thing of like bouncing off each other. Like, I knew when I met her that I wasn't going to ever be bored ever again. I knew when I met her that I wanted to just make her laugh and smile like for the rest of my life. And that would be enough. That's like enough. Like, I don't need a lot of material things, because at some point in my life I didn't have any material things, and I was
Hmm.
totally happy with just like a cup of coffee, just chilling outside. The things I appreciate most in life are like a ride, because I've taken the bus so
The simple
much.
things, right?
Yeah, dude, like a free nug. Someone's like, "Here's a nug, dude. You look like you." I'm like, "Dude, yeah, thank you." Just man. Sometimes we'll wake up and I'll tell her someone's gonna bring us weed today, and my girl will just look at me and shake her head, like so. And then her mom will show up and be like, "Here's a nug," or something. And we're like, "Oh, okay." It's like,
Oh
how do
shit.
you know? There's this funny thing of guessing correctly. You start thinking like, "Man, am I psychic? Did I just
Well, you're
get like well?"
speaking it into existence, right?
Dude, yeah, we'll be watching football, and someone will be just running down the field, just like killing it. And I'm like, they gotta be careful. I'm like, the quarterback hasn't thrown an interception in a while. The next play is like interception. It's been a while. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I
Can
don't
you
know where it
imagine
comes
if
from,
like
but
you could, and you can, the more you practice it, can you imagine
yeah,
actually channeling that energy, that psychic energy, and actually
yeah,
making it work in your favor, right? Like
yeah,
literally.
yeah. The real part comes where like not playing the fun and games of I mean like that psychic energy, I think, guides me in a way where it's like keep writing, like that voice that says something like, I don't know, there's an energy that pushes me, propels me, that I think is of like made of, like it's not made of me, but it's like the spiritual energy that it's like something I write about in the book, because there's this part where I go off into another dimension, and it's like this funny thing where it's like almost like a meditation that I didn't initiate. And so all of a sudden I found myself in a deep meditation very quickly. And what I experienced during that was just this like reversal of time. Like I went back to
Wow.
when I was a childhood, or back to when I was a child, when I was like in a crib, to a memory that I don't really remember, but I was like visually seeing it. Like I was in a crib, I was looking around, someone walked through the hallway, and I was like remembering this, having to write about this. And it was like, what really did happen? And I'm like, closing my eyes and I'm imagining, because it was this thing of like seeing visions. And so, eventually I go back to the delivery room. I go back to being inside my mom's womb. I go back to being like a fetus of a thing of disappearing, of being cells and organisms. And it's
Wow.
like, yeah, there's this like coming to the moment of like, what are we made of? What are we? And there's something about, everyone gets to make a decision about what they believe in. So for me, I'm like, fuck, I'll just put it out there in a book, and and just hopefully people find it and resonate with it. And if they don't or do, just keep going, just keep writing. So for
Yeah.
me, I really resonate with how you're just like, keep it up, dude, just keep writing. You're resonating like so well with like, you could tell that maybe I get excited about writing.
Well, I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it, man. Like I honestly feel like you have like a real cool energy, bro. And it's like, dude, like your gift is writing, because not everybody can sit and just, not everybody can be disciplined enough and write. That writing is actually something I hope to do as well. Like at some point,
Yeah,
I really want to create a book for myself. That's actually been something that's on my bucket list to do. It's actually on my vision board as we speak. It's something that I know it's going to happen at some point, but I'm not quite at that space just yet where I can literally
yeah,
focus in. And it takes a certain type of self-discipline. So for you to have that, and like for it to come so naturally, like you need to, I think there's a bigger reason, and you need to pay attention to that even more so than you're doing right now. Now, what I might say is,
yeah,
like, if you want to make this something you can live off, which I
yeah.
pretty sure you would love to do, right? You
No,
might
for
want to
sure.
you
Yeah,
might want to exert some energy on like kind of learning the business side of it too, on how you can promote it, how you can market it, you know what I'm saying, get it out to more
yeah.
people. Because, and it's not even just for the monetary standpoint. I think, again, going back to the question that your girlfriend phrased to you, is like, why did you write this book? Why are you writing this book? And your
Yeah.
answer was so that it can impact someone, so that it can help somebody, so it can relate to somebody, and it can move them and it can help them. So the only way it's going to help them is if they even know about it, right? So you
Oh
have to
yeah.
find a way to get it into the hands of as many people as possible so
Yeah.
that it can help them. let
Oh
it do
yeah,
what it
man.
does,
Yeah, I
right?
feel you. Yeah, I think we're up to like close getting to 30 sales ish, and it's like a thing of like,
That's awesome, man.
oh, thanks. Yeah, man. It's a fun
And it's
thing. It's like,
limitless, really, dude. If you think about it, yeah,
yeah.
you're at 30 right now, but dude,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I
imagine,
could sell 30 tomorrow with this interview. Like, it's a cool thing of like talking to you about the book because I think even this interview, people will click on it, people will watch it, and it's a thing of just spreading the knowledge because that's definitely it. If someone doesn't know you exist, they don't know you, they don't know what's up. So
right?
you got to reach out to them and kind of tell them you exist.
And
I
in
believe in
today's
that.
world, with the look at what we're doing, right? In today's world, like with the
Yeah.
internet, like we connected on the internet. It's so much like, gosh, there's so many tools at our disposal, Joe, man. And it's just a beautiful time to live. So,
Yeah, yeah.
honestly, bro, like I could see this like really being your gift. Like I know it's your gift. I can sense that
Oh
about you.
wow,
If you didn't
thank
already
you.
know that about yourself, hear it from me, man. Somebody who's just met you today.
No, I really appreciate that. It's something that I mean, I'm writing now with like conviction where I'm like, yes, like this second book, I want it to come out. I want it to come out so that people can relate. I think everyone could relate to just working a shitty job, or I think
Right.
everyone could relate to eventually getting to the point, that I got to. Maybe the adventure I went on, I mean, I wrote about it. So eventually, I think if I finish writing the second book, it's going to be at that last job right before I quit to go off into the unknown. Or it's like this funny thing of like, where does it stop? Like I could keep writing, maybe where I write about some of the jobs I worked in Fresno, like I can make
Right.
it a chapter, just like the three or so jobs that
Yeah,
I've worked.
dude. See, and
And
that's the beauty of it, right? It's like you can literally do what you want. It's your canvas.
yeah, yeah,
That's,
that's
just like your
funny.
girlfriend's an artist, like this is your
Oh
canvas,
yeah,
man. This is, you can go any direction you want to go in, man, which is
oh yeah.
amazing, dude. And I'm so happy for you, man, that going through those experiences that you write about in your book and you share about your journey and stuff like that to ultimately arrive where you're at and to experience these revelations and really just be able to channel that energy and have all these lessons to share to with the intention to help other people. That's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, I wanted to show off because we have my book published, which is cool, and my girl, she published a coloring book. She's like this
Wow.
this really cool artist who draws like intensely
I
psychedelic
was actually going
cosmic
to
art.
ask you about that because I saw that
Yeah,
on your link tree and I was like, oh, you
yeah,
did a coloring book too. But so that's your girlfriend that did that.
yeah. I mean, I got to show it off because I think part of like of
Wow.
like my team, like she's the other half of me in that way where we published these books together. Divine Duality is our publishing name, so we thought of these like, I mean, it took a while to come up with the name Divine Duality, but it
Wow.
kind of represents us in. And she's really into drawing, of a higher dimension. I
That's
think
awesome,
divine
man.
nature. Yeah, I'm like always really. I'll show this last one. And so it's like she just put together all this work from years of her art, and she's been wanting to make a coloring book for a minute, and it came together real
Wow.
quick because she had all this time because I was writing this book. She was just sitting around. She was like, "I'm gonna make a coloring book." I was like, "Yes." I was like,
Oh
so it
my
was like this funny
God.
thing of like her drawing and working on this coloring book, me typing, getting our
That's
books
so
published,
cool,
and then
man. That's so
launching
cool.
them.
I'm sure like a kid, when they get their hand on that, they like can go so many different directions in coloring it because
Yeah,
just by the first look at that, it's like, wow, they can play around with different colors. There's so many different directions they can go in within the page, and it'll
yeah,
just turn out
yeah.
to it'll kind of turn out to be like your shirt with more colors, man.
Oh, dude, yeah, a little blue stranger. She like it's a funny thing of like being an artist because like me and her, we talk about it where we're just like, at what point do you put a price on your soul? Like, how much is this? Because like there's a time where you're an artist and you're drawing and you're just like, what am I doing? What is no one's
Totally. Of
buying anything or something, or it's like
course.
you have to like, I don't know. We see a lot of art where it's like, Batman, you want me to draw you Joker? And I'm just like, no, it's okay. Like for like my girlfriend's blessed where she just a vision will pop in her mind and she'll just draw it out. It'll just,
Wow.
I mean, you want me to show off that she's been sitting here just slowly putting this together. This
Wow.
is like some of
That's
her work.
incredible, man.
Oh yeah, well, we've been talking. It was just a blank page. She sat down and she just started drawing it. So
Wow.
like she's my inspiration, and it's funny that like I could be hers. So like she would be, sitting here watching me type, and I would stop. I'd look at her and I'd be like, are you okay? I'm sorry. Am I ignoring you too much? Am I typing too much? And she'd be like, no, it's awesome. Just keep going. And so
Dude,
she was
that's
always there
so
to
cool.
encourage me.
So
Yeah,
cool.
man.
Dude,
To have a
honestly, Joe, man, that's so cool that you guys are together and you guys both make each other better. Cause I think that's the goal in any relationship is like for a relationship to be a platonic relationship, a successful relationship, and a love-filled relationship is just to aim to always help each other grow and experience life in a different fashion and elevate, right? And I think that, man, honestly, that same kind of blind faith that it took you to leave LA and go to Fresno, that's what you got to put into your book and into your girlfriend's artwork and into your, what is it? Divine duality?
Divine Duality
Du-
Publishing.
Divine duality. Like, dude, that same energy, you put it
Yeah,
into your brand because that's your brand. That's your
yeah,
both of
yeah.
your brand.
We're
And you guys are each other's team, man. And I feel like honestly, you can go as high as you want to go. It's all up to both of you.
Thanks, man. Dude, I really feel that. I really appreciate that. I mean, when I met her, I felt that energy. Like immediately, I was like, "Hello." It was like this connection of
That's
just like,
cool.
yeah. And so, I mean, luckily, our relationship continues to grow. And I mean, I talk about finding the woman that I want to marry. I mean, it's her. I told her, I'm like, "You're it, baby. Like, I don't want to meet anyone else," because there's this funny thing of like knowing, of being like having conviction, saying something like, I believe in this, I will do, so when I met her, I was just like single for a whole year. I was like searching for myself. I found what I thought was myself, and so I found this direction of like, I know what I want, and so a lot of times I didn't know what I wanted out of a relationship, or just like who I was even, because a lot of that comes out in the book, where I'm just still referring to myself as like a 32-year-old boy, and she's just like, you're not a boy, you're a man. And it's this part in the book where I'm just like, she's right, what are you talking about? And it's like this bubble popping, because of being the youngest, of always being treated like a
Right.
kid, and never really being put through this kind of adversity. So for me, it was like, I moved to Fresno, I didn't have a job, and eventually I move away from my brother because we get into a big fight. I showed up to my girlfriend's house, and I'm essentially homeless. I'm just like, hey, can I live here? And she was just like, no. I had just met her 3 days prior.
Oh
She was
shit.
she was like, what? Not my girlfriend then, So she was just like, no, you can't stay here. But she let me like stay the night, and I never really left until the what transpires in the book, because you read what happens, and it's like this funny thing of like us breaking up, and then something happens that would break us up, and then us coming back together, and
Wow.
something brings us back together. So it's a
That's
long
cool, man.
journey, and it's like this cool drawing with this like
Did she
dude
do
with
that
this
too?
staff.
Oh no, you said you hired a local artist, right?
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Juan. He's a local artist, Goozer 38. And I actually shouted him out in the very back of my book, because I was like, I got to give a final thought. You can kind of
Right.
see it
Yeah,
backwards,
man.
final thought. So in the final thought, it's really just like after I wrote the book.
And the thank yous and everything.
Yeah,
So
I just
yeah.
wanted to thank, I think the proofreader, the first proofreader we had, suggested that, I do a couple things different. And at first I was like, how, whoa, like that's going to change the whole book. What is, and I ended up implementing those things, and they did change the book. I was like, they changed it for the better. So like to be able to like get this feedback from a proofreader was really, really valuable. And,
Yeah.
it was this thing of, we had a beta reader who read the whole book, and I was able to question her a ton. I was just like, what did you like? Did you like the beginning? Was it too slow? I mean, what do you say about, how did you feel? Did it make you feel like, was I too, and so she was able to tell me things, when she first started reading it, when I was first officially done, this beta reader, in the family, it was this thing of like, she loved it. She was like, man, Joe, wow, you're
So,
amazing. And I'm like, no, careful, because you're going to get to the second section, and it changes a little bit. You might actually start hating me. And she was like, no, there's nothing you could write that's going to make me, change my mind. And it got to the point where she read the part I'm talking about, and she was like, I think I hate you a little. And he was like, I think I hate you a little bit. I was like, it's okay. It's a, keep reading though. Just don't stop. Like if you stop reading there, you hate me forever. So just keep reading.
That's
So there's a
awesome,
whole,
Joe.
yeah, there's a redemption in the book that I
That
think comes through in the last couple of
that's
chapters.
so awesome, Joe. Honestly, man, I'm so excited for you and like the journey that you've not only been through, but that you're going to continue to go on by sharing yourself and being transparent and really just being vulnerable, because sharing art is like a vulnerability. And I think that takes a
Yeah,
tremendous amount of courage and bravery. And so shout out to you and your girlfriend, man. Like
man, thank
artists
you.
in general, man. Like when you put yourself out there, it is a scary thing because people can be some harsh critics sometimes. And like, it can really, it feels like it can wound you. But when you
Yeah,
believe in yourself enough and you've gone through the fire, like you've been through, man, from what it seems like it's almost like you recognize that like nothing can hurt you unless you let it, right? And like I can sincerely feel that about you. Now, I hate to kind of do this, but I gotta wrap this up because I do got
oh
another
good,
meeting.
no dude,
But
yeah, thank
I
you, man.
wanted to give you some space here real quick to maybe leave the folks with something like a message that you want to just let out before we get out of here, and just also how they can connect with you.
Oh cool, yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram, so my name's Palooka Joe Wrights. I mean, I don't know if you like put it or wherever,
I
I'm sure
definitely
there'll
will.
be, yeah, yeah, because your editing is really good, man. I'm really really impressed. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
Palooka Joe Writes. I mean, I post memes and I'm a stoner, so I take tokes and I post tokes, and I just have fun with the page. I want to actually start like Mondays writing. Like I want to just wake up on a Monday and go live, and you could join me, and we do some guided writing where I kind of give some kind of lesson, and we basically type for 10-20 minutes, and then we could read, go live. So I want to test it out, the waters and all that. So I mean, it's a thing of checking me out where I'm basically going live and typing and inviting writers to come along, and then also on like maybe on Fridays I just want to go live and smoke weed. So I'm just gonna chill and chit chat, and there's gonna be like no writing. And so I told my girl, I'm like, if I could go Monday writing and be like a writer, and then Friday chilling and we kicking and smoking, I was like, that might be like the direction of the page where. So and then also for me, just writing, just like as long as I could get 1,000 words in. There was a thing where I quit my job all dramatically to finish writing my book because I had to focus on it. And now I know I could work and write, and I don't have to quit a job, and we could publish the book. It doesn't have like it was this like deadline I was putting in my own mind where we had to publish the book as quickly as possible. So I devoted all my energy to do it. So now I'm just like, little bits at a time. It could take a year for this next one to come. That's okay. Like it doesn't have to be published in 3 months or 5 months or 10. It's like it's gonna come. I'm gonna get it to the point where we can publish it, and I'll be talking about. It's like a fun thing of like the Instagram's really where I connect. Maybe I'll start a podcast, start putting it on YouTube,
Oh
because then
man.
I've been seeing you hustling with like your videos, and I'm clicking on all of them because I'm like, we've been
I
watching.
know.
You've been in our living room chilling more, so it's like funny to be live with you, man. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
you
the
of
time.
course, man. It was such a pleasure to have you here, man, and learn more about your experience in writing the book. Not only that, but the experience that led up to writing the book, right? That was like really what I wanted to get into. And you really shared a lot. And I really appreciate that, man. I appreciate the support, man, because you have been somebody I see that's really active and interacting with my post, man. I sincerely appreciate that support. And I wish you and your girlfriend and all your loved ones nothing but the best, man, because I feel like you
And
have
thank
such
you.
great intent in your heart to help other people by sharing your story. And that's really important, man. So I'm always rooting for someone like you. And yeah, man, just keep up the good work, brother.
And yeah, hearing that and seeing that you're like the local hope dealer, I was just like, man, thank you. I really appreciate those words, and I say the same right back to you. I mean, there's a funny thing about bumping into people, why and what, and it's like questioning, trying to figure out. It doesn't make sense. So it's like just accepting what is,
Mhm.
and following your page. It's been cool, just talking and chatting, and I look forward to following you and watching your interviews, your next ones, and just seeing your page grow. And it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you so much again, brother. And those that want to go get his book, it's on Amazon, and I'm pretty sure
Oh
it's in
yeah.
like some other stores as well. The book is called What
Oh
Happens
yeah.
When Everything Goes Down, a story of one man's spiritual journey. And this man, Joe, right here, is a you know, a tremendous dude. I'm pretty sure he's got some pretty cool stories in there that one can learn a lot from. So, Joe, it's been a
And
pleasure, brother.
thank you, man. And I mean, can't wait to repost this and shout you out, man. Thank you
Oh
so
yeah,
much for having me.
absolutely. And I'll definitely be in contact with you again, man. I'm hopefully we can get this going on down the line. I want to keep up with your progress, man.
Oh, man,
It
yeah,
sounds like you've got so much going on that like you want to just get it all out on paper. And I just
yeah.
want to see your progress and you know, just be able to just like channel your energy and hopefully you can channel mine and we just help each other continue to build, man. So
Oh,
yeah,
heck
man.
yeah, man.
Thank you so much
Thanks.
for being here, brother.
Oh, dude, thank you. And I mean, God bless. Take care, and we'll, look forward to sharing this post and seeing you, grow too, man. I really
100%.
appreciate this.
Of course. And to all those that made it to the end of the podcast and continue to support the Blessed Beyond Measure podcast, we truly appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope that you got tremendous value out of this as I did. I learned so much today. And please be sure to follow Joe at Palooka Joe Writes. Go check out his book on Amazon and support everything the man's got going on. Thank you, y'all. Till next time, stay up and stay blessed. Peace.